trapped in a prison you can't see? And the worst part? You didn't even realize you were building it. Those phrases you repeat, I'm not good enough, money's hard. They're not just thoughts, they're literal code, wiring your brain for failure. It's not magic, it's programming. Just like AI, your mind takes inputs, and most of yours were installed by parents, algorithms, and 30-year-old textbooks. Stick around. By the end, you'll know exactly how to break free from these patterns and how to rewrite them. Because if you don't control your language, someone else will. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You didn't write most of the script you're living by. Your language, the very tool you use to perceive and interpret your existence, was largely programmed by external forces, parents who, with the best of intentions, passed down their own linguistic limitations, media that frames reality through carefully chosen words designed to provoke specific emotions, educational systems that defined what you're good at and what you're bad at, cultural narratives that quietly determined what success looks like, what happiness means, what's possible and impossible for someone like you. Even the structure of English itself shapes your perception in ways you've never questioned. Did you know some languages don't have tenses that separate past from future? Their speakers conceptualize time differently than you do. Reality itself looks different through their linguistic lens. This unconscious programming runs deep. So deep that most people will live their entire lives without realizing how profoundly their words have shaped their experience of reality. Have you ever felt trapped by circumstances that seemed immovable, defined by limitations that felt like concrete facts, guided by beliefs so fundamental you never thought to question them? That's the power of language at work. To understand how deeply language shapes reality, we need to explore its architecture, both scientific and esoteric. When I say words are programming, I mean it literally. Your brain processes language as a form of code, a set of instructions that shape neural pathways. As neuroscientists puts it, neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to rewire its structure in response to learning, experience, and the environment. Every time you repeat a phrase, whether aloud or in your mind, you're strengthening specific neural connections. Say, I can't enough times, and your brain becomes wired to see impossibility. The pathway becomes a superhighway. Meanwhile, the roads to possibility grow over with weeds from disuse. This isn't metaphorical, this is physiological. The Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis, known to linguists as linguistic relativity, suggests that language doesn't just communicate thoughts, it shapes them. The words available to you determine what you can think. In its strongest form, this theory proposes that language determines thought. Most scientists now favor the weaker version. Although the language we speak influences our perceptions and categorization of experience, the human mind is capable of abstract thought that can go beyond the confines of linguistic structures. But even this weaker version has profound implications. Studies show that people who speak different languages literally perceive colors differently. Some cultures have distinct words for shades of blue that English speakers lump together, and their brains process these blues as categorically different colors. Other languages conceptualize time and space in ways English speakers can barely comprehend. The Cook-Thaayore language of Australia doesn't use relative terms like left and right, only absolute directions like north and southwest. Its speakers consequently develop extraordinary spatial awareness that seems almost supernatural. To English speakers, your language isn't just describing your reality, it's filtering what you can perceive in the first place. Venturing deeper, quantum physics introduces the observer effect, the disturbance of an observed system by the act of observation. While we should be careful not to overstate the implications at the quantum level, the act of measurement influences the state of a system. As the physicist Eugene Wigner wrote, all that quantum mechanics purports to provide, are probability connections between subsequent impressions of the consciousness. It is only when an impression enters our consciousness that we speak of a collapse of the wave function. This suggests a deeper relationship between consciousness, language, and physical reality than classical physics recognized. While it would be irresponsible to claim thoughts create reality in a simplistic sense, there appears to be a fundamental connection between the observer and the observed that we're only beginning to understand. Ancient traditions intuited this connection millennia ago. In nearly every esoteric system across cultures, words hold power beyond mere communication. The Egyptian god Thoth created the universe by speaking it into existence. In Hebrew mysticism, each letter contains creative force. Sanskrit mantras were believed to vibrate at frequencies that could alter physical reality. Even our English word spelling carries this dual meaning, to arrange letters and to cast magical influence. A collection of spells is called a grimoire, i.e., grammar. These connections aren't coincidental. Modern science offers glimpses of how this might work through cymatics, the study of visible sound vibration. Different frequencies create different physical patterns in matter. Dr. Masaru Emoto's water crystal experiments, while controversial in scientific circles, suggest that words and intentions might influence physical structure. Plants exposed to positive versus negative speech show measurable differences in growth. This isn't about supernatural magic, it's about the very real power of vibration, intention, and neurological programming. Let's examine some words you use every day without questioning their deeper implications. Human comes from humus, meaning earth or soil, a reminder of our connection to the physical world. Universe combines uni, one, and verse, song or turn, suggesting existence as a single unified expression. Awaken implies that your normal state is sleep, unconsciousness to a deeper reality. Mourning shares roots with mourning, each day a small death and rebirth. Emotion literally means energy in motion, feelings as moving forces rather than static states. Belief contains be and life. What you believe shapes what you become. Authority connects to author, someone who creates or originates. Mortgage derives from Old French meaning death pledge, a lifelong commitment to debt. These hidden meanings aren't conspiracy theories, they're windows into how language subtly shapes perception and behavior. The mechanisms of influence extend further. Framing, the way information is presented, dramatically alters how we respond to identical facts. As communication researcher Robert Entman notes, frames work by selecting some aspects of a perceived reality and making them more salient, thereby promoting a particular problem definition, causal interpretation, moral evaluation, and/or treatment recommendation. Political messages using tax relief instead of tax cuts activate completely different neural pathways and emotional responses. Media headlines about illegal aliens versus undocumented immigrants trigger different value judgments about the same people. Elizabeth Noel Neumann's spiral of silence theory reveals another dimension. The fear of isolation is so powerful that it encourages individuals to conform to the perceived majority opinion, even if it contradicts their personal beliefs. Language creates consensus reality that silences alternative perspectives. Our cognitive biases, confirmation bias, anchoring bias, availability heuristic, interact with language to reinforce existing beliefs. Self-verification theory explains that people are motivated to maintain a consistent and coherent sense of self, and language is one of the primary vehicles through which this coherence is achieved. We literally talk ourselves into remaining who we believe we are. The placebo effect, where belief in treatment creates real physiological improvement, demonstrates the mind-body connection language can activate. Words like healing, improvement, and effective trigger genuine physical changes when we believe them. All these mechanisms interlock to create a self-reinforcing system. Your words shape your thoughts, which generate your emotions, which determine your actions, which create your circumstances, which confirm your original words. This cycle can trap you in limitation, or it can liberate you into possibilities beyond imagination. Becoming conscious of language's power is a fundamental step toward freedom. Here's how to begin reclaiming your linguistic sovereignty. Start by cultivating awareness. Notice the phrases you repeat, the labels you apply to yourself, the stories you tell about your limitations. Don't judge, just observe. This mindful listening extends to external programming as well. What messages bombard you daily from media, advertising, and social circles? A simple journal practice can accelerate this awareness. At day's end, record recurring phrases from your internal dialogue. Look for patterns. I'm terrible at, I can't. These are clues to your unconscious programming. Once identified, challenge these limiting patterns. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about conscious language. Replace disempowering phrases with language that opens possibility. I can't becomes I'm learning how, or I'll find a way. I'm not good enough transforms to I am worthy and capable. This is impossible shifts to what is possible here. I always fail evolves to I learn from every experience. This is too hard changes to what can I learn from this? I'm a failure becomes I am a work in progress. These aren't affirmations you recite robotically. They're new neural pathways you're deliberately constructing. When using affirmations, follow 5 principles for effectiveness. Make them positive, present tense, personal, believable, and emotionally resonant. I am confidently building my skills as a public speaker works better than I will not be afraid of public speaking someday. And most importantly, you should feel it. Your questions carry particular power. The brain automatically searches for answers to whatever you ask. Why do I always mess up? Sends your mind hunting for evidence of failure. What can I learn from this experience? Activates completely different neural pathways. Frame experiences consciously. A problem becomes a challenge. A failure becomes feedback. A setback becomes a setup for a comeback. This isn't semantic games, it's neuro-linguistic programming by choice rather than by default. Set intentions with precise language. Vague goals produce vague results. I want to be more successful lacks the clarity that shapes reality. I am building a coaching business that serves 20 clients monthly and generates $10,000 in revenue by December. Creates a specific blueprint for your unconscious mind to follow. Combine visualization with language for amplified effect. As you speak empowering words, create vivid mental images of the reality you're describing. This multisensory approach strengthens neural pathways and emotional connection. Finally, cultivate what psychologist Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset through your language. Replace I'm not good at math, fixed mindset, with I'm developing my mathematical thinking, growth mindset. The difference seems subtle, but it fundamentally alters how your brain approaches challenges. Remember, this is an ongoing process. You're rewiring decades of programming, both internal and external. Progress comes through consistent awareness and intentional choice, not overnight transformation. You may be skeptical. Now let's explore some perspectives and address them. This sounds like The Secret or New Age manifestation. While some popular interpretations oversimplify these concepts, the fundamental mechanisms are grounded in neuroscience, psychology, and linguistic research. The effects of language on perception and behavior are well documented across scientific disciplines. Words are just words. They can't literally change reality. Words change your neurological reality, which changes your perceptual reality, which changes your behavioral reality, which changes your circumstantial reality. The chain of influence is subtle but powerful. This sounds like magic or spells. The only magic involved is the remarkable neuroplasticity of your brain and the psychological mechanisms that shape perception and behavior. Ancient traditions used magical language to describe effects we now understand scientifically. This is too complicated. While the mechanisms are complex, the practice is simple. Become aware of your language patterns and deliberately choose empowering alternatives. Small changes compound over time. Isn't this just positive thinking? It's much more. Positive thinking often involves denying reality or forcing inauthentic emotions. This approach is about understanding language's architecture and using it consciously and strategically. How can my words change external circumstances? Your words shape your internal state, thoughts, beliefs, emotions, which influences your actions and behaviors, which shape external circumstances. It's not magic. It's cause and effect across multiple domains. If my thoughts were not mine, then I am not real. This concern touches something profound. If your thoughts and self-concept are linguistically constructed, what remains when you will change the construction? The answer isn't emptiness, but freedom, the discovery that you are the conscious awareness that can choose its linguistic patterns, not the patterns themselves. Words are not just describing your reality. They are creating it. Every phrase you repeat, every label you accept, every story you tell is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. The question isn't whether language shapes your reality, it's whether you're wielding the brush consciously. Begin today. Notice your words, challenge limiting patterns, experiment with new linguistic choices, observe what shifts. You've been spelling your reality into existence all along. Now you can do it deliberately, word by conscious word. Remember, you are the author of your experience. Your authority comes from this authorship. Claim it. The unsettling truth is that most people will live their entire lives within invisible linguistic boundaries they never think to question. They'll experience the walls as reality itself rather than as constructions they can modify. You now have the awareness to choose differently. To recognize the cage as a cage is to already stand halfway outside it. Your words are spells. Choose them wisely. Speak your world into being.